milestone marks for the American people and so many families across the country. He will also speak to the power of the American people to turn the tide on this pandemic by working together, following public health guidelines, and getting in line to be vaccinated as soon as they are eligible. As you all know, there are a number of confirmation hearings coming up this week. Almost 500,000 Americans, and as we look at these, we're looking at it through the prism of the fact that almost 500,000 Americans, as I just noted, have lost their lives to this cruel pandemic. Tens of millions have lost their jobs. Families can't put enough food on the table, and millions of children need their schools reopened. And central to the all-hands-on-deck response we're executing from the Biden-Harris administration is having qualified, experienced, and groundbreaking nominees installed as quickly as possible. And we want to thank, of course, the Senate for the steps they are taking. They have taken, I should say, over the last few weeks to support and confirm, often with large bipartisan votes, many of our nominees. But underlining our pressing need to have our team in place, we have, of course, Merrick Garland, who is currently doing his hearing right now, who's been endorsed by multiple former Republican attorneys general as someone faithful to the law, not politics, and who multiple Republican senators agree is apolitical, would come to the job with decades of experience. Javier Becerra, Attorney General Javier Becerra, who helped play a role in getting the Affordable Care Act through and brings decades of healthcare policy experience to the table. As Attorney General of California, he fought alongside his Republican counterparts to expand access to COVID treatments. Neera Tanden, a brilliant policy expert with experience at the highest levels of government, also running a big think tank in Washington, D.C., who understands firsthand the power of policy in helping families gain a foothold in the middle class. There was a wide spectrum of support, ranging from the Chamber of Commerce to labor unions. Miguel Cardona, a public school teacher, former public school teacher, who will champion and help expedite the reopening of our schools. That will be his first priority. We're eager to see him in place. And Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, who served as mayor and has formerly served as a mayor and will be invaluable as both parties work to protect families from losing their homes during the COVID outbreak. As you know, many of you saw, the president just made an announcement this morning about important changes to the PPP program to ensure small businesses, especially minority-owned and mom-and-pop businesses, get the help they need to keep their doors open and keep workers on payroll. 98% of companies have fewer than 20 employees, and a big part of this announcement will apply to those companies. The small businesses employ nearly half of America's workers and account for 44% of our nation's GDP. More than 400,000 small businesses have permanently shuttered due to the pandemic. Millions more have lost substantial revenue. So clearly an area where there is a need for great focus. His announcement includes instituting a 2-week window starting Wednesday, during which only businesses with fewer than 20 employees, so 98% of them, can apply for relief through the program, so that we prioritize support to businesses who were previously left behind. The changes also include expanding eligibility so that sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed Americans, as well as immigrants who are lawful permanent residents, can receive more support. And finally, the changes announced today will roll back restrictions that disproportionately impacted entrepreneurs of color from receiving relief, including Americans who are behind on student loan payments and business owners who were formerly incarcerated for non-fraud convictions. I also just had an update on the winter storm. On Friday, the president approved a major disaster declaration, as many of you know, for the state of Texas, including public and hazard mitigation assistance for all 254 Texas counties. In that declaration, 77 Texas counties were approved for individual assistance, which allows for uninsured property owners to seek federal assistance if their home is damaged by burst pipes caused from freezing weather. More counties will we expect more counties to be added as more work is done to evaluate need, and that's a reflection of FEMA's initial evaluation. In the meantime, the president has asked FEMA to do everything it can to rapidly distribute aid to the state of Texas. So far, more than 1 million meals have been shipped to Texas, more than 4 million liters of water have been shipped to Texas. The Department of Defense fixed-wing aircraft continue to deliver water in bulk to multiple locations in Texas. They've completed 9 missions so far, with an additional 10 missions planned for today. 69 emergency generators and more than 120,000 blankets have been delivered to Texas. And over the weekend, Homeland Security Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall, National Economic Council Director Brian Deese, called Governor Abbott to update him on the broad federal effort the president has requested to support citizens of the state in coping with the impacts of the storm and, of course, the recovery from here. Last but not least, where's Deborah Saunders? She's in the back. Oh, there she is. Okay, so I'm going to, I want to take a moment to recognize a milestone in the briefing room. Today is her last day in the print pool and potentially her last day in the briefing room, although you're, of course, welcome back. And even though she's leaving the White House press corps and full-time reporting, I know she's going to be writing some columns, and I have a feeling we'll be hearing from her quite frequently. So congratulations on covering the White House for 4 years. As many of you know, that is not for the faint of heart. Let's start with your questions.
Thank you. I'm your first burnout, but I won't be your last.
Yeah, that's right. That's fair.
So I'm going to start with a housekeeping question.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just go to you. We'll go to you, Deborah. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This morning I saw there was no Marine out front in the front door during the 9:45 briefing. And I asked Lower Press. Lower Press says, we don't have to have a Marine out front when the president is in the Oval Office. And I've been getting emails and questions ever since I filed that pool report. If there was no Marine out front, does that mean that the president is not in the Oval Office?
The president was in the Oval Office this morning, working, receiving the PDB, and all the things that you're aware of from the schedule. There hasn't been a change of policy.
So if there's no Marine there, that doesn't mean anything.
Again, I mean, I could certainly talk to them about the specific circumstances of this morning, but I can report to you that the president was in the Oval Office and the policy that's long been in place continues to be in place.
People are fascinated by this. I have two quick Nevada questions.
Okay.
One, does the president have a position? There's a bill in Nevada to get rid of the caucus and make it a primary, and there's the hope that Nevada's going to be first. Nevada's going to be first. So could you please tell me, does the president have a position on that?
There's plenty of time for politics. The president's been in office for a month. I'd refer you to the DNC and others who will lead that process moving forward.
Do you have a position on renaming McCarran after Harry Reid?
The president is a big fan, close friend of Harry Reid, worked with him closely on a number of important issues, including getting the Affordable Care Act through. As I understand it, it's passed the local legislature, I believe, and it's now through, or the local, where it needs to pass locally, I should say, and it's now being considered by the FAA, so I would refer you to them.
And one last question
Okay.
about the way Washington looks right now. Mm-hmm. There are fences everywhere. We have National Guard. What's the president's view, what's the administration's view about how long it's going to keep going on like this? And why is it going to continue, it looks like, into March?
Which piece are you referring to?
About the National Guard. I'm talking about all the fences that are around here. Mm-hmm. There are fences around Capitol Hill. I understand things happened on January 6th. How much longer do you think you're going to have all the security here?
Well, I would look at those a little bit separately because, of course, members of Congress, leadership on the Hill, Democrats and Republicans will make decisions about the security needed, and we support at the Capitol, and we certainly support them in that decision-making process. As it relates to the fencing around the White House, we work, of course, closely with the Secret Service, the National Park Service, and the president and the vice president are certainly eager to have that brought down at an appropriate time, and hopefully that's soon. All right, Josh, we'll go to you.
Thanks, Jen. Two questions. You touched on the issue of nominations and confirmations. Mm-hmm. Given the statements of Senator Manchin, Senator Collins, Senator Romney, what do you see as Neera Tanden's path to become director of OMB? And also, what does it mean for the Biden agenda if this process keeps on being delayed and drawn out?
The process of confirmations? Well, let me start with that. I would say that we experienced some intransigence during the transition, some delays in processes that had previously worked at a more rapid pace. Our view is that we've hopefully moved past that. We've seen a number of our nominees move forward over the past couple of weeks pretty quickly with large bipartisan votes, and we certainly welcome that. But we are eager to have our team in place. This week has a number of important hearings. There are a number of important votes this week. We would love to end the week with a Secretary of Education in place as an example, and certainly others as we look to have the full team and hopefully a full cabinet meeting at some point in the near future. As it relates to Neera Tanden, let me just say that the president nominated her because he believes she'd be a stellar OMB director. She's tested. She's a leading policy expert. She's led a think tank in Washington that has done a great deal of work on policy issues, but has done a great deal of bipartisan work as well. She's won widespread support and endorsements ranging from labor unions to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and she's rolled up her sleeves and done the work. She's met with more than 35 senators, Democrats and Republicans herself. This is a process. Confirmations, getting individuals confirmed is. She has 2 committee votes this week, and we're working toward that, and we'll continue to work in supporting her
Do
nomination.
you still see a path to 50 votes or more?
We do.
And then secondly, on Iran, we've seen some issues with regard to Iran restricting access to nuclear inspectors. And I was curious for how this works with Secretary of State Blinken saying he expects strict compliance by Iran in order to re-enter the deal with the United States.
Well, first, I think you're referring to the reports from the IAEA over the weekend and kind of discussions they had about Iran's compliance and access that they would have or were looking to have to Iran's facilities on the ground. And certainly, I would send you to them on that. But I would say that what Secretary Blinken's announcement and what our announcement that came out last week is a reflection of is an openness to have a conversation, an openness to diplomacy. And that invitation was issued by the Europeans to invite us, to invite the Iranians to the table to have a conversation. We have sent no indication that we are willing to take additional steps in advance of that. What we're willing to do is sit at a table and have a diplomatic conversation because we are looking to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, and we believe diplomacy is the best way to do that.